Hi, this is Daryl Meyer from Keller, Texas. Today is Wednesday, August 25th, 2010. A lot of things going on in the news today, so let's get right to it. This first story out of Yahoo.com. It says, how effective is Ahmadinejad's new drone? Iran's weapons development efforts have long had a wisp of the Wizard of Oz about them. In other words, don't look behind the curtain. In the movie, of course, it was Toto who tugged back the curtain to show the lever-pulling wizard was a fraud. But it was Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad himself who stood proudly on the stage at Tehran's Malik Ashtar University of Technology as a sky-blue curtain rose to unveil Iran's first armed drone. It also showed the world, if not his fellow Iranians, just how threadbare Tehran's arsenal really is. As showbiz, it had its effect. Iranians roll out unmanned bomber, the Wall Street Journal warned darkly on its front page the day after Ahmadinejad's announcement. Global television had repeatedly shown two chandor-clad women pulling up the cloak to reveal the Qarar, Farsi for striker, which Ahmadinejad affectionately dubbed the ambassador of death. Okay. And yet the gap between rhetoric and rockets looms large, experts suggest. More like the ambassador of minor damage to an unintended target, says Richard Abulafia, a veteran analyst with the Teal Group, an aerospace consulting firm just outside Washington, D.C. He said Iran lacks the ability to guide its drone over long distances, nor does it have the sensors, both on the aircraft and at the ground stations controlling it, to make it any kind of a threat. And Kenneth Katzman, an Iranian military expert with the Congressional Research Service, said it is likely to have virtually no actual military value at all. So, they go on to say things like, is Estes the prime contractor, referring to that model rocket company out of Colorado, you know, the one with the little engines you put in there and hook it up to the car battery and, you know. Yeah, some of you guys know those back from high school, right? So they're basically saying this thing is no threat to anybody really, except for the people that it accidentally lands on or unintentionally bombs, because it's just not going to be very advanced and probably won't do much of anything. So I guess we'll see. Here's a story out of Debka.com. Hamas large-scale terror plot sets off high Israel-Palestinian alerts. The belligerent speech delivered by Hamas Damascus-based political leader Khalid Mashal Tuesday, August 24th, confirmed the information reaching Israel and the Palestinian Authority intelligence services that the extremist Palestinian group is set for large-scale terror attacks against Israeli and Palestinian West Bank targets. Debka Files intelligence and counter-terror sources report Hamas is setting its sights on torpedoing the direct Israel-Palestinian negotiations between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and PA Chairman Mahmoud Abbas, set to launch in Washington on September 2nd. Hamas is said by their sources to be preparing to activate its West Bank networks for coordinated strikes against a major target inside Israel and another associated with Abbas power base or the U.S. and British-trained Palestinian security forces. So here's Hamas trying to prevent these peace talks. Why? Because that would pretty much defeat their purpose. Hamas is only in existence. Their motto is for the complete destruction of Israel. That's all they want. That's the only reason they exist. It's the only reason. Here's another story. Hezbollah wants Iran to arm Lebanese army. This is out of UPI.com. Out of Beirut, Lebanon today, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah called on the Lebanese government to seek Iran's assistance in providing arms for the Lebanese army. I vow that Hezbollah will work fervently and capitalize on its friendship with Iran to ensure it helps arm the Lebanese military in any way it can, and Hezbollah's ministers will make that same vow before the cabinet, Nasrallah said in a speech today. Ah, boy. Just more violence, more hatred toward Israel. It's crazy how this thing is folding out in front of us. Here's a story out of Arutz Sheva. Foreign Minister says freeze to end, natural growth to continue. Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman has said that the building freeze must end, that he would be willing to give up his home in Judea that he would quit the coalition if the freeze continues, and that the construction should continue only in certain areas, all in the past few days. Let's see. It says that the Palestinians are clearly not coming to these talks with goodwill, says Lieberman. They are coming because they were forced to come, but they keep on threatening to leave. There have been many ceremonies over the past years, and this will be another one. Everyone should lower their expectations. We've been working on this for 17 years since Oslo. There's no magic solution that will suddenly grant us an agreement in 1 year, as the Americans say. He goes on to pretty much rip into the Palestinians, saying they've gave up nothing. They're asking for everything from us. And, for the last 10 months, we've been waiting on the Palestinians to please come to the negotiations. They come at the last month. That's their problem. He said, on the contrary, we expect the Palestinian side to stop the incitement, stop naming city squares after terrorists, stop inciting against Israel in all sorts of international forums with boycotts, court cases in The Hague, and not recognizing us as a Jewish state. He says, I think we've made enough gestures and concessions and have received nothing in return. It can't be that we always have to pay for the pleasure of sitting at a table with the Palestinians. Let them pay as well. Kudos, Mr. Lieberman. Couldn't have said it better myself. I'm tired of these one-sided negotiations where Israel gives up everything, Palestinians give up nothing, and they ask for the world. Please, give me a break. Here's a story out of Israel Today that would just set off the whole world in an uproar if it were said about anyone but Israel. The headline says, Israel is a scum state, says top Amnesty International official. The head of Amnesty International's Finnish branch, Frank Johansson, wrote in Finland's third largest newspaper that he views Israel as a scum state. In his column for Iltalehti, Johansson recounted that during a recent visit, a friend who works in Israel told him that Israel is, in his eyes, a scum state. And then Johansson wrote, based on my own visits, which occurred during the 70s and for the last time in the 90s, I agree. Israel has long maintained that organizations such as Amnesty International and the people who run them do not give the Jewish state a fair shake due to personal biases and politicized views of the conflict. Okay, I think we've seen enough Jew bashing, Israel bashing, anti-Semitic behavior. When's it going to stop? Okay, here's another story out of the same Israel Today. Palestinian stone throwers wound a Jewish baby. Palestinian Arab stone throwers attacked a Jewish vehicle south of the Judean town of Hebron on Tuesday, wounding an infant passenger. Israeli army medics treated the baby at the scene but decided the child needed to be evacuated to a Jerusalem hospital for further treatment. While such an attack by Jews on an Arab family likely would have made headlines around the world, Tuesday's attacks by Arabs on a Jewish family was pretty much ignored. Again, double standards, people. Sick and tired of it. Here's a story out of Yahoo.com. It says Egypt announced site of first nuclear power plant. Yay, hooray, we're going to have a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. That's what they need for peace. Out of Cairo, Egypt's President Hosni Mubarak has instructed the government to start building the country's first nuclear power plant on a site on the Mediterranean coast of all places, ending a year of controversy. So, if there's any problems, pretty much there goes the Med. Great. So we're going to see probably a nuclear arms race, Pakistan has nukes, India has nukes, Israel, Iran's trying to get them. Who knows who else? Syria, Turkey, who knows? Now Saudi Arabia will jump in there. Here's a first out of JTA.org. In a first, Israelis to serve on a UN force. This out of Jerusalem. An Israeli police delegation will leave for Haiti to serve as part of a UN multinational force, marking the first time ever that Israelis will serve on a UN force. The 14 police officers attended a ceremony at the Western Wall on Monday, ahead of their scheduled departure early next week. The delegation constitutes the first ever Israeli group to serve in active duty under the command of the United Nations. The police officers will remain in Haiti for an extended period of time. That's interesting to see. Okay, boy, a lot of news today. A lot of things that you're just not going to see on CNN and Fox. Just seems like something you need to hear about. This story out of Depka File: Iran Guards chief secretly oversees war plans in Damascus. Iranian Revolutionary Guard Chief General Mohammad Ali Jafari, who rarely leaves his country, paid a secret visit to Damascus a few hours before Tehran launched its first nuclear reactor at Bushehr Saturday, August 21st. With him were top Al-Quds brigades commanders in Lebanon, Iraq, and the Palestinian territories. The group stayed only long enough to confer with Syrian President Bashar Assad and his military and intelligence chief on 3 topics: the role Syria and Hezbollah will play in a potential Iranian military reprisal to a possible American or Israeli strike on its nuclear sites, the probable repercussions of an Iranian decision to use Hezbollah or pro-Iranian terrorists for strikes against Israel, and how Syria can help discourage the Persian Gulf and Saudi Arabia from the willingness to support the U.S. or Israel attack on Iran with bases and other means. Damascus in the news, it always gets my attention, because that Isaiah 17:1 prophecy that says Damascus will pretty much cease to exist. Here's something out of Yahoo.com. The government's new right to track your every move with GPS. Government agents can sneak onto your property in the middle of the night, put a GPS device on the bottom of your car, and keep track of you everywhere you go. This does not violate your Fourth Amendment because you do not have reasonable expectation of privacy in your own driveway. Interesting that they would even come out and say this. There's more to that story, but I want to get in the Word because I like to spend more time with the Word than the news, because in the end, this is far more important than the news. I've been in Psalms. I'm going to stay in Psalms for a while. Every now and then I might deviate, but I want to continue this study in Psalms because I love Psalms. We're up to Psalm 24, verse 1. It says, "The earth is the Lord's and all its fullness, the world and those who dwell therein." Okay, everything belongs to God, clearly. Absolutely everything, the earth and all that is in it. That's important to know. Why? Because we're called to trust in His provision, and doing so becomes much easier when we recognize we're trusting in the one who ultimately owns all that there is. There's coming a time when it's going to seem like the whole world is against us, and it's probably not that far off. Now, sometimes we fear that our needs will exceed what the Lord can or will provide for us, but our needs can never be greater than what He actually has at His disposal, which is everything. And if we're lacking and in need, it's a simple matter of the Lord giving of the resources that He has. And that's the lesson that Peter learned when Jesus called him to cast a line in the sea and pull out the first fish he caught. Jesus promised Peter in Matthew 17:27 that he would find a coin inside the fish's mouth that would be sufficient to cover his needs. Now, why did Jesus do that? He wasn't just pulling off a magic trick. He wasn't just showing how great He was. He was showing Peter a practical demonstration of Psalm 24:1. Jesus was showing Peter that he's able to access and allocate whatever is needed whenever it's needed. He was saying, Peter, all the world's wealth belongs to me, and I can do with it what I want. That's something we're going to need to hear a lot more of. Now, let me go to the last verse of that chapter. Psalm 24, verse 10 says, "Who is this King of glory, the Lord of hosts? He is the King of glory." Let me jump to Revelation 19:13, and that says, "He was clothed with a robe dipped in blood, and His name is called the Word of God." Okay, let me jump over to John 1:1. It says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." And in John 1:14 it says, "And the Word became flesh." Okay, back to Revelation 19:16. "And He has on His robe and on His thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords." Okay, Psalm 24 verse 10, He is the King of glory. Who's the King of glory? Jesus Christ. David was talking about Jesus 1,000 years before He was born. Something we need to realize. Let me finish with Matthew 28 verse 18. Jesus said, "All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth." Listen, people, trust Jesus Christ. He's your Savior. He died to save you. He's coming back again. You need to know Him. God bless you. Hope to see you again.